So this is from Ben on Twitter. He asks, is it challenging to be a conservative professor on a college campus in 2021? I'd like to fold that into my question, which is similar but more specific. When I heard you speak at the Catholic Artists Society in New York some time ago,
Mhm.
I believe it was in the Q&A session that you mentioned your experiences teaching freshmen at Villanova. It was some kind of
Mhm.
philosophy intro, or I forget exactly what it was, but your comments on kind of where those students are coming from and the challenges of teaching them and opening them up to what they think they already know or something
Mhm.
like that were intriguing to me. So I guess there's two parts to this question. The first question is the second question is about that specifically, what I just mentioned. The first question is, what is it like to be a conservative professor, an Orthodox Catholic professor at what we will delicately call a historically Catholic university?
Mhm. Well, um, it's a terrible time um, to to be a professor. It's a terrible time to pursue truth. Um, although there was never a good time for it. Um, but it, so I have two kind of answers. I mean, one of them is, oh, it's nothing. Um, uh, the the chief feature of our declining culture is the recession of everyone into their own little hives. Um, and so as this withdrawal continues, whether it's the withdrawal of the Benedict option or the withdrawal of people bowling alone or the withdrawal of people just not bowling anymore because that would involve getting off the couch, um, people are very, very isolated. And the academic life is no exception there. There isn't the kind of campus life, just as there isn't the kind of public and civil life in our age that there once was. And so the place of conflict in our society most of the time is, well, in large urban riots as people are destroying property, um, and uh, social media. And I'm just not an important enough person for the outrageous things that I sometimes say on social media to really get much attention. Um, so there's that. On the other hand, I published a article in the Wall Street Journal 2 years ago pointing out that my university was in the process of creating diversity questions that would seem to indicate that if you expressed um, an orthodox conception of, simply a sane conception of sex and gender or the nature of marriage, that you might be found out and found in violation of Title IX, inclusiveness doctrines, et cetera, et cetera. And I published that in defense of academic freedom. The argument I articulated was in terms of academic freedom, um, because I was seeking to state the argument as most people in our relatively liberal, as in classically liberal, freedom-loving culture would want to express it. Even though I think there's much more to be said about the need for an orthodox teaching to be taking place within every Catholic university, and not simply a sort of anything goes market of ideas, John Stuart Mill kind of liberalism. But nonetheless, it was Mill I used, as it were, as my interlocutor in explaining to the world why this was a really bad thing for the university, for my university, and for any university. And something like 150 to 200 of my colleagues thought, no, they really wanted to be repressed this way. So I have had petitions signed against me, but I just hardly noticed. I think it was spring. I was watching baseball. Um,
I mean, you didn't make a big thing about it because I don't even, as far as I remember, I certainly don't remember. I remember, I think I maybe remember the article, but I don't remember the petition. So you clearly
yeah,
weren't making yourself out to be a big victim or anything.
Yeah, well, I couldn't read through the whole petition because it was half literate. So, and I don't like to respond to things that I'm not willing to read. So I just,
Hmm.
it's like putting down a really bad book. Why would that you've been assigned to review? I'm not going to write a review of this book. It's too bad to review it. Um, such alas is the ability of many of my colleagues. Uh, so so there's that, and gosh, it when you're dealing with college freshmen, it's true that I've spent the last 2 hours telling you that we have no culture, we have no civilization, we have an anti-culture, we're all falling apart. You would
Yeah.
expect that to enter into the lives of young people, and it does. Uh, but it enters in a really precious and sad way that with which I sympathize, and that is young people have grown up not thinking, um, with a series of contradictions. Nobody can know the truth, but the sciences will give you an absolute sure-footed foundation for the truth that if everybody just listened to those things, everything would be fine. Even though, of course, science has nothing to say about any of the questions that actually matter in society. Um, uh, they have grown up believing that you've got to just follow your passions, um, even though none of them would ever dare follow a passion. They've grown up that make you happy, but also you're going to be an investment banker. They've grown up believing really that that the good is relative, and yet if you hurt somebody, that's absolutely bad. The harm principle that comes out of Mill. Um, these are all a series of incoherencies with which they've been raised, and they may not sense the incoherence of it, but they do sense the unhappiness of it. They have no sense. Very few of them have any sense of the great adventure that it is to be alive. I just finished the novel Mr. Blue by Miles Connolly from 1928. I'm just writing a little essay on it, and Mr. Blue says at one point, "Life is so beautiful it sometimes frightens me." Um, our students have been told that life is frightening. Our young people have been told that life is frightening, but the fright that they've been given is the fright that they better not say the wrong thing or they'll be accused of being racist. The fright they've been given is they better study the right thing or they'll starve to death, even though we have a huge welfare state that dominates virtually every aspect of our society. They've been told that uh, that really they just gotta be cautious and not do anything significant, and but be sure to do a little volunteer work on the side, and you will somehow survive the 80 years of your life without too much poverty, too much physical misery, and without too much stress or drama from having had to undergo the adventure of truth. And so, it's so sad for them. Um, it's so sad for us all that that's the kind of person we're trying to create: men without chests, or people who are just docile occupiers of a cubicle, um, obedient servants of Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's sad, and it's not good. Um, and it's hard to reach students like that. On the other hand, wow, uh, when they realize for the first time, as some of them will do, the incoherence of the beliefs that have been inculcated into them, or conversely, when they realize for the first time that an idea about something like piety, or even the idea of beauty or truth, is worth thinking about, um, you can see somewhere in the faint glimmer in the eye that something good has happened. And I don't think any teacher from Plato forward ever hoped to achieve more.